Imagine waking up and finding out that the standard deadbolt on the internet, the two-factor authentication protecting your bank accounts, your private emails, and your identity, has just been quietly picked by a machine that literally never sleeps.
It's a sobering thought, isn't it?
It really is.
Huh.
Good morning, and welcome to the Deep Dive. You are joining us today for a comprehensive, objective briefing on the current events shaping our region and, frankly, the world at large.
Right.
We pride ourselves on presenting the facts calmly and professionally, prioritizing clarity over sensationalism so that you, our listener, remain well-informed without any unnecessary fear. Today is the 17th of June, 2026.
And the title of today's morning briefing is The Digital Battlefield, State Hackers, AI Warfare, and Global Risk, focusing specifically on the cyber domain.
Good morning. It is always a privilege to have you here to help guide us through the complexities of today's global intelligence picture.
Good morning. It's great to be here. We do have a significant volume of raw data to synthesize today, and our objective, as always, is to just cut through the noise. We want to explain not just what is happening on this digital battlefield, but the underlying mechanics of how and why these operations are succeeding.
Exactly. But before we begin our analysis, we must disclose that today's briefing is sponsored by ProWave AI and generated by Stylo News. And understanding the architecture behind this broadcast is actually highly relevant to today's topic.
It absolutely is.
Right, because Stylo News is the consumer application of the Stylo Intel Ops software. That's a platform originally engineered exclusively for enterprise operations across government, military, and international business sectors.
Right. And what this means for you listening is that you are getting insights derived from the exact same artificial intelligence-powered tools designed to support global decision makers in high-stakes environments.
Which is incredible access. And that capability is essential for the mission of this deep dive today. Over the next several minutes, we are tasked with impartially analyzing the primary patterns of global cyber events from the past 2 weeks.
Yes, and we'll trace the tangible impacts from the international stage all the way down to the local level. We're going to examine how key decision makers are viewing these threats, outline their proposed courses of action, and forecast the most likely events you should be watching for next.
So let us begin by examining the raw data our intelligence engine has normalized. The most prominent pattern to emerge over the past fortnight is the absolute integration of artificial intelligence into state-sponsored cyber operations.
Yes. We are no longer discussing AI as a theoretical future threat. It is right now the current engine of state espionage.
And the data specifically points to the People's Republic of China and Iran as being highly active in this integration.
Right. That is exactly what the intelligence reporting indicates. Let's examine the mechanics of the Chinese threat clusters first, specifically those identified as Salt Typhoon and Volt Typhoon.
Okay.
Recent reports show these groups have compromised United States telecommunications providers, which remarkably includes unauthorized access to FBI wiretap data.
Wait, FBI wiretap data? That is incredibly sensitive.
Highly sensitive. But the strategic focus here isn't immediate disruption or sabotage. It is long-term espionage and the quiet pre-positioning of assets deep within critical infrastructure. Furthermore, the reporting attributes over 50% of state-sponsored attacks on global AI assets to actors linked to China.
Okay, let's unpack this reality, especially that wiretap compromise, because traditionally, intercepting and analyzing that sheer volume of telecommunications data would require an absolute army of human analysts just to sift through the noise to find actionable intelligence.
Right. It would take massive manpower.
So are we looking at a fundamental shift from, say, traditional hand-to-hand digital combat by human hackers to automated AI-driven siege engines?
We really are. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are looking at a complete rewrite of the economics of cyber espionage.
How so?
Well, to understand why this matters, and we're analyzing this strictly from a strategic standpoint without endorsing any political view, you really have to look at human capital.
Okay, human capital.
Right. In the past, compromising a secure network required a team of highly specialized, very expensive human operators manually probing for weaknesses. Artificial intelligence replaces that linear process with exponential automation.
I see.
Instead of one master lockpicker working on a single door, AI allows a state actor to deploy a swarm of, microscopic automated lockpicking algorithms, and they continuously test every single digital door across a nation's infrastructure simultaneously.
That is a staggering visualization, which brings us to the intelligence regarding Iran, because they seem to be leveraging this automation in a very different way.
Yes, the tactics differ significantly.
Right, because the reports show Iranian operators are utilizing commercially available consumer-grade AI tools. We're talking specifically about models like ChatGPT and Gemini.
Exactly.
And they're using these commercial platforms to rapidly develop malware and coordinate massive disinformation campaigns against U.S. and Israeli targets. This is alongside the expansion of the Handala brand targeting aerospace and telecom sectors.
That's what the data shows, yes.
But I have to ask, are they actually producing military-grade cyber weapons just by typing prompts into consumer chatbots? Because that sounds almost too simple.
Well, I would caution against calling it military grade straight out of the box. The danger isn't that a commercial AI is instantly generating flawless zero-day exploits.
Okay, so what is the primary danger then?
The danger is iteration speed. These tools allow operators with even just moderate technical skills to rapidly prototype malware. They can translate convincing phishing campaigns into perfect, localized English or Hebrew.
Wow. So no more obvious grammatical errors in those phishing emails.
Exactly. And they can deploy disinformation at a scale that previously required state-level funding. So it drastically lowers the barrier to entry while multiplying the sheer volume of the attacks.
Which creates a very logical transition to our second major pattern. While China and Iran appear focused on playing a quiet, long-term game inside these networks, not every state actor wants to remain hidden.
No, definitely not.
Moving our focus to the European continent, we see a theater defined by maximum visibility and disruption.
The European theater presents a stark contrast to what we just discussed. Intelligence reports detail sustained, highly visible cyber pressure against Europe and allied states, and this is primarily attributed to the Russian Federation.
And they are utilizing a dual-pronged strategy, correct?
Correct. The loud component consists of highly disruptive distributed denial of service, or DDoS, attacks attributed to the Kremlin-linked group No Name 05716.
Okay.
And these are actively targeting NATO and European Union institutions across the United Kingdom, Ukraine, and Italy.
Now, I think most of our listeners are fairly well versed in the concept of a classic DDoS attack, flooding a server with traffic until it collapses. But how does AI change the nature of a DDoS attack today compared to, say, 5 years ago?
That's a crucial distinction. 5 years ago, a DDoS attack was like a massive blunt force battering ram hitting a single point on a wall.
Right.
Which made it relatively easy for network defenders to identify the source and just block the traffic.
Right.
But today, AI allows these attacks to be dynamic.
Dynamic in what way?
The algorithms constantly shift the origin points of the synthetic traffic. They actually mimic the exact behavioral patterns of legitimate human users. So it's no longer a battering ram, it's a mutating flood that easily evades static defenses.
That sounds incredibly difficult to defend against.
It is. And while these loud attacks occupy all the network defenders, the second prong of the strategy comes in. That utilizes quieter espionage campaigns using UAC 0252 and APT28 malware to target Germany, Ukraine, and Spain for data theft.
We should note, though, to remain objective, that European authorities are taking concrete counteractions against this.
Yes, they absolutely are.
In the past 2 weeks, Dutch authorities actually seized 800 servers directly tied to these pro-Russian DDoS operations. But what really stands out to me in the reporting is how European decision-makers are classifying this environment.
Right. They aren't just calling it espionage anymore.
Exactly. They are defining it as classic hybrid warfare.
And that classification is critical for decision-makers. Hybrid warfare is the deliberate combination of digital disruption with psychological effects.
So it's about the psychological impact on the civilian population.
Precisely. The goal of knocking a NATO website offline isn't just to deny access to a server. It is to create a persistent atmosphere of vulnerability. It's designed to test and degrade the political cohesion among allied states by showing their citizens that their institutions cannot protect their own digital borders.
And that concept, the psychological effect on the civilian population, was perfectly illustrated by a piece of reporting from the recent InfoSecurity Europe 2026 conference in London.
Yes, the tabletop exercise.
Right. Corporate and government leaders ran a tabletop exercise simulating a ransomware attack on a fictional supermarket chain they called Blue Cart. It highlighted a, frankly, terrifying reality. It seems decision-makers are realizing these geopolitical cyber operations aren't just targeting military silos anymore.
No, they're actively threatening the civilian supply chain.
Exactly. Imagine you're walking into your local grocery store to buy dinner for your family, and the shelves are entirely bare. And not because a snowstorm stopped the delivery trucks, but because a piece of state-sponsored malware paralyzed the logistics software.
It's a very real scenario.
So how are corporate leaders adjusting their courses of action when the civilian supply chain and retail infrastructure is suddenly the new front line?
Well, corporate leadership is being forced to abandon the illusion of absolute prevention.
Interesting. So prevention is out.
Mostly, yes. They are pivoting entirely to a posture of resilience and rapid recovery. The primary course of action proposed at these conferences now is aggressive network segmentation.
Okay, but segmentation sounds great in a boardroom. In the real world, isn't everything from the warehouse refrigeration units to the checkout registers completely interconnected to, optimize efficiency?
That's the problem. That interconnected efficiency is exactly what the malware exploits. The new mandate is to deliberately introduce friction.
Introduce friction.
Yes. If a breach occurs in the corporate HR department, the architecture must ensure it cannot automatically jump to the warehouse logistics or the point-of-sale systems.
That makes sense.
Furthermore, organizations are prioritizing immutable data backups. These are secure offline archives that simply cannot be altered or encrypted by ransomware. That ensures that even if the active network falls, the company can restore operations in hours rather than weeks.
Okay, so building on that threat to civilian sectors, let's pivot to how these high-level state operations and advanced tools are causing concrete, measurable impacts at the national and local levels worldwide. Because it is hitting home.
It is definitely hitting home globally.
The most alarming example from the past 2 weeks here in the United States is the FBI's urgent warning regarding a tool called Kali 365.
Yes, Kali 365.
This is an AI-powered phishing tool designed specifically to bypass two-factor authentication within Microsoft ecosystems. And I have to say, if two-factor authentication, which is essentially the standard deadbolt of the internet that we've been told to use for a decade, is being picked by an AI lockpick, then that deadbolt is broken.
It is certainly a paradigm shift for security.
Right. So what courses of action can local IT decision makers actually take when the standard defenses fail? Has the cybersecurity industry been relying on a false sense of security?
Well, I wouldn't characterize it as false security, but rather a perimeter defense that has been rendered completely obsolete.
Obsolete, okay.
Think of two-factor authentication, like a heavy moat around a castle. It works perfectly until the adversary invents the airplane.
That is a great analogy.
Right. Tools like Kali 365, they do not bother guessing your password. They use AI-driven proxy servers to sit right in the middle of your connection.
Oh, wow.
They wait for you to do the hard work of entering your password and your 2FA code, and the moment the server hands your browser the digital session token, which is the permission slip proving you are verified, the AI intercepts that token and uses it to walk right through the front door.
So the static locks are completely broken. What is the alternative course of action then?
The necessary shift is toward zero-trust architecture. This means the system must stop trusting the login credentials and start verifying the user's ongoing behavior.
Give me an example of how that works in practice.
Sure. If an employee logs in from their usual office in Chicago, but 5 minutes later attempts to download an entire proprietary database to an unrecognized server in Eastern Europe, a zero-trust system recognizes the behavioral anomaly.
And it shuts it down.
Exactly. It immediately severs access, regardless of the fact that the 2FA code was correct. We must rely on behavioral analytics now.
And we are seeing what happens when those analytics fail, or when infrastructure is simply overwhelmed by the sheer volume of automated attacks. Just look at Indonesia. The government there just reported a staggering 714% surge in cyber attacks.
That is an unbelievable number.
We are talking about 5.5 billion incidents severely straining their national infrastructure.
And that figure, 5.5 billion incidents, is the direct result of the AI automation we discussed earlier.
Right, because human operators could never generate that volume.
Never. It is algorithmic warfare designed specifically to exhaust the defender's resources. And we see the fallout in the form of massive data breaches affecting personal citizen data worldwide.
Yeah, we have multiple reports of this. In Mexico, unauthorized access was gained to the National Social Program database, La Escuela es Nuestra. And in South Korea, major breaches hit platforms like the OTT streaming service, TVING.
And every one of these incidents highlights a critical compounding vulnerability.
The global shortage of cybersecurity professionals.
Exactly. There simply aren't enough trained humans available to actually monitor these defensive systems.
Now, to gauge the human reaction to these localized impacts, we reviewed the sentiment data gathered from the X platform. And it's fascinating because it is not just a clinical list of grievances. It is a highly fragmented, very emotional discourse.
What were the primary themes you saw?
Well, you see a deep, heightened geopolitical alarm. Users are expressing genuine fear and negative sentiment regarding the vulnerability of their personal data and, as we mentioned earlier, the fragility of their supply chains.
Which is an understandable reaction.
Absolutely. But interestingly, that fear is balanced by a massive surge in proactive, positive support for grassroots cybersecurity education. We saw incredibly positive engagement surrounding the Carolina Beach NowCon Cybersecurity Conference, as well as youth cybersecurity camps recently hosted in Qatar. People are realizing they have to become their own first line of defense.
That public realization is vital because the defensive strategy at the national level is becoming increasingly complex. If we look at the strategic counteroffensive and the future outlook, governments are recognizing that human defenders alone simply cannot match the speed of AI-driven attacks.
So what's the pivot?
The response requires multinational collaboration and utilizing AI to fight AI.
We see that clearly with South Korea joining Project Glasswing. Based on the reporting, this is a multinational collaboration involving major technology firms, specifically Anthropic.
Yes.
They're utilizing advanced AI models like Claude Mythos to autonomously hunt down and patch network vulnerabilities before state hackers can exploit them.
Precisely. And it is crucial that we impartially report on the entirety of the intelligence picture here.
Yeah.
We must also observe the offensive capabilities being deployed.
Yes, let's look at that.
According to current reporting, the United States, through collaboration between the National Security Agency and Anthropic, is utilizing that same Mythos AI model for offensive cyber operations against adversaries.
Right. And to remain strictly neutral here, we present the deployment of these U.S. offensive capabilities exactly as we present the actions of China, Russia, and Iran. This is strictly a matter of factual intelligence reporting regarding a technological arms race.
Exactly. It's about presenting the facts on the ground.
We should note that this U.S. deployment is occurring alongside ongoing legal and ethical debates regarding the military use of commercial AI models. But the fact remains that the capabilities are active.
They are active and evolving rapidly.
So looking at this trajectory, what are the most likely events our listeners should be watching for next?
Based on the patterns established over the past 2 weeks, we forecast 3 primary developments. First, expect a severe acceleration in AI-driven phishing scams, specifically targeting the global financial sector.
The financial sector, okay.
Yes. Intelligence indicates that institutions, such as India's Reserve Bank, are already actively preparing for coordinated campaigns designed to bypass traditional banking security. Second, we anticipate further, highly visible disruptions to global civilian supply chains as state-linked actors continue to test infrastructure resilience outside of traditional military targets.
And the third development?
The rapid global death of the traditional password.
The death of the password.
Yes. Because tools like Kali 365 effortlessly bypass passwords and standard 2FA, major institutions will increasingly force a reliance on biometric passkeys.
I see.
These utilize physical devices or biological markers like fingerprints and facial recognition, which rely on cryptographic hardware protocols that simply cannot be easily intercepted or guessed by current AI models.
It's fascinating. Well, that concludes the formal intelligence briefing for this morning. Now, stepping away from the anchor desk for a moment, I want to speak directly to you, our listener, about how we are actually able to provide this level of comprehensive analysis.
It's an important transition.
It is. We promised you an objective, clear-eyed look at the world, and that is exactly what the Stylo News platform is built to deliver. It is far more than a sponsor. It is an incredibly powerful tool for any individual who needs to cut through the global noise.
The transition of the Stylo Intel Ops architecture into a consumer application really represents a profound democratization of intelligence gathering for the public.
Absolutely. Stylo News is an application you can download right now on your mobile device or computer. It allows you to generate and customize your own personal intelligence-style briefs. It does not rely on a single narrative.
Yeah.
It constantly aggregates and cross-references data from over 250 traditional news sources, seamlessly integrated with real-time data from X.
And it does this remarkably fast.
Yes. And the most vital feature in a globalized world, it translates all of this information across more than 20 languages in real time. You are not just reading the local headline, you are seeing the global picture, synthesized into actionable insights that take less than 60 seconds to digest.
In an environment where state actors are aggressively utilizing AI to obscure the truth and manipulate public discourse, having an AI-powered tool to aggregate, translate, and impartially verify information is the most logical countermeasure a citizen can adopt.
I couldn't agree more. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, if you want AI-powered news on demand that respects both your time and your intelligence, we highly encourage you to subscribe. You can start tracking global intelligence instantly by visiting www.stylonews.com.
It's definitely worth checking out.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive today. We deeply appreciate you taking the time to get informed with us. We view this as an ongoing conversation, so please reach out and request topics for future deep dives. What complex issue do you want us to unpack next? Let us know, and stay updated by following Stylo News on all your favorite social media platforms.
As we conclude today's briefing, I will leave you with this final thought to consider.
Please do.
As artificial intelligence begins to autonomously hunt for vulnerabilities and simultaneously patch them, we are rapidly approaching a horizon where cyber warfare is waged at speeds entirely beyond human comprehension. The question is no longer if your data is secure, but whether the AI guarding your data is smarter than the AI trying to steal it.